We have a major update about the radicalization of the suspected shooter of Charlie Kirk. And once again, right wing circles are spreading conspiracy theories based on false narratives. And it's so critical that we debunk them before they spread too far because the mainstream media won't do it. So we have to. So make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to support. The latest update right now, according to Utah Governor Spencer Cox, is simple. He believes that the dark internet has contributed to the radicalization of Tyler Robinson, the alleged suspected shooter of Charlie Kirk. Spencer Cox appeared this morning on morning shows where he said that according to family and people that law enforcement is interviewing, he does come from a conservative family, but his ideology was very different from his family, and so that's probably part of it. He went on to say that it seemed to happen kind of after he moved back to the southern part of Utah. There was a lot of gaming going on. Friends that have confirmed that there was kind of that deep, dark internet, Reddit culture, and these other dark places of the internet where the person was going deep. You saw that on the casings, the memification that is happening in our society. He specifically talks about social media and social media's impacts on the radicalization of Tyler Robinson. Now, this seemingly confirms what a lot of people have been saying for several days now, ever since we saw what was actually on the shell casings, instead of what the media first reported was on the shell casings. The rhetoric on the shell casings likely came from a video game known as Hellfire 2. And within the shell casings were essentially meme type language that came from really the deepest, darkest holes of the internet. In fact, this isn't a left versus right thing. These things, these communications happen in communities on the internet that are further to the right than Charlie Kirk, further to the right of most Republicans. And what's interesting is that now law enforcement seemingly is finding out that this shooter was likely radicalized because of the internet and because of these gaming circles, because of this deep, dark network of sorts. And it's important to recognize that Governor Cox is a Republican. Governor Cox is a Republican. And Senator John Curtis, the Utah senator today, came out and kind of agreed with Governor Cox and essentially said that social media here is the problem. It's not necessarily a right versus left divide. Senator Curtis challenged partisan labels for radicalization, saying that he essentially, quote, "I think you need to move or you need to take the word radical and remove right or left. Radical coming from any direction is not good. It's not healthy, and it should be called out." He said that on ABC News's This Week this morning, and I think that underscores where this investigation is heading. Because right now, as Senator Curtis said, there's often zero liability for what people are putting out there. It, referring to social media, can be positive, but I fear in many cases it's a huge weight and a very negative weight on this generation. So when you look at those two statements, the fact that according to law enforcement, Governor Cox is saying that he was likely radicalized due to this deep, dark internet. Then you have John Curtis, a Republican senator, coming out and saying, remove partisan labels here. It's not right versus left. It's not the radical left radicalization or the radical right radicalization. It's just radicalization, likely because of something that happened on social media. The more you look at that and the more you hear this narrative, the story becomes a little clearer. Now, I say all that with the caveat that we still don't know what the true motive was. We still don't know why Tyler Robinson would have wanted to kill Charlie Kirk. Law enforcement is still in the process of investigating this shooting, and in the next about day or so, we're going to get charging documents when Robinson is officially charged via an indictment or some type of criminal complaint. He'll appear in a courtroom on Tuesday, and in those charging documents, we'll learn more information. According to reports, they're actually investigating a possible note left at the scene or somewhere near the scene by Robinson, a note that will likely give some more insight into the motives behind the shooting. But right now, many on the right are running with this conspiracy theory that because Tyler Robinson's roommate was possibly trans, that this had some type of transgender motivation behind the shooting. And once again, what the Wall Street Journal did earlier this week by falsely claiming that there was anti-trans or some type of pro-trans agenda inscribed on these bullet casings, That started a conspiracy theory fuel online, flaming conspiracy theories across the right, across the internet, blaming America's trans community, even though there was no evidence to suggest that anything to do with LGBTQ issues or trans issues had anything to do with the shooting. And now, over the last 24 hours, a Fox News reporter put out this exclusive news that Tyler Robinson's roommate was trans, without providing any further documentation or nuance, and once again, allowing that conspiracy theory to just spread. The idea that Robinson's roommate is trans is not a conspiracy theory, but the idea that because the roommate was trans, that's why he must have done this horrific crime, well, that is a conspiracy theory because right now there's nothing to back that up, but it's not stopping it from spreading online, and that's why it's so dangerous. And in fact, Governor Cox, this Republican governor, went on air today and essentially said that the roommate, who is trans, is fully cooperating with authorities right now and has been over the past several days. And in fact, was likely one of the reasons that Robinson was even turned into authorities, was this roommate. And so law enforcement authorities didn't want the fact that this roommate was trans to get out because they knew what would happen. They knew that right-wingers on the internet would take that and run with it and try to demonize and blame the trans community when in reality, we know nothing about the shooter's motives yet. And once again, what we're seeing is kind of this right versus left partisan divide into trying to blame someone when we don't have information. And that is so dangerous. And that's something I will never do as a journalist. Because here are what the facts are. The facts is that this shooter was likely radicalized because of the internet, was because of these Reddit circles, the memification of society, according to Governor Cox. That is a fact. The facts are that he came from a conservative family. He may have had different viewpoints. We know, according to his grandmother, that the conservative family was MAGA, many Republicans. He grew up based on Facebook images on his mother's Facebook posts, that he grew up in a family that regularly used firearms. And so he was likely comfortable around a firearm. Those are the facts that we know. We don't know whether he was a radical leftist, a radical right, in the center, or apolitical. We know that he was unaffiliated in terms of voting records, but we don't know anything else. And to run with this idea that it's the Democrats' fault or it's the Republicans' fault when we don't know is a problem. And so the latest is that we're looking at the radicalization impact of the internet on this shooter. That is the big breakthrough here. And as we learn more information, I'll let you know. As we learn more facts, I'll let you know. And I'll continue debunking conspiracies on the internet because here's the thing. We know nothing about whether this had anything to do with trans rights, despite what some on the right are claiming. As always, make sure to subscribe, share, like, comment, and I'll see you this evening once we get more updates.